Welcome to the Wrap-Up, a VR live stream focused on keeping you up to date with the adoption of universal profiles and growth of the new creative economy. Join us as we uncover the fusion of technology, artistry, and innovation that's redefining how we create, share, and experience in this digital age. It's time to wrap it up. Welcome back, everybody. Today is May 10th, the year is 2024. Before we dive into today's topics, take a moment to click that like button and or follow/subscribe if you haven't already. It helps a ton and ensures you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Remember, what you hear in this podcast is just our opinion and not professional financial advice. We're not experts. If you need specific advice, please ask someone who's a professional in that area. Listen at your own risk, and always double check before making decisions based upon what we talk about. Alts, how you doing today in those Teflon Sega glasses?
I'm feeling sporty in my glasses. It was just a bit bright in here. Alpha Pictora was shining really bright today, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to rock these Teflon shades just so I can vibe out. But yeah, enjoying the Friday vibes. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day so far. You know, without the weekend, where would the week be?
I had to think about that one for a minute. I don't know where it would be. It would be somewhere. Maybe it
It'd be
would be here
lost.
today. Yeah, lost.
Oh, well, yes. So there's no such thing as tomorrow. We'll never get there. So enjoy today.
Okie dokie. All right, leading in today, we got Crex telling us all, GM fellow Lux holders, keep a tight grip on your Lux and embrace patience. Remember, a small spark today can ignite a roaring fire tomorrow. Let's journey together towards success. Up, and then tags Fobs the meme coin and Luxo. And we can see Fobs sitting there with the GM mug, holding a nice little Lux token, I think, underneath that sun. I thought that's why you had the glasses on. I know in the image we're presenting here, you can't see the sun rising up over the horizon line there. You can just see its reflection, but I thought that's what Alt was shielding his eyes from, this dawning of a new morning of Lux.
It's Kismet. It is Kismet. Yeah. And you also can't see his little cute little shoes and ankle socks that he's rocking there.
Did you say cute little shoes and ankle socks?
Yeah. They're hilarious.
I might not have described it that way, but okay, I'm with you. All right. So I think it was Troy Harris who quoted John Maynard Keynes earlier this week, but I will double down on that quote. The markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. That seems really ominous right now. However, these are trying times for everyone, but the more we stick together and have empathy for each other's situations, the stronger that we're going to emerge on the other side of this. Empathy being the key word that we're going to revisit later in this episode, leading us into our community spaces, the Wrap-Up Spaces edition.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you look around and there's a lot of projects on the fundamental side that are bad, that are down bad, right? Like all we really got was just the meme season. That was pretty much it, right? Other than Bitcoin and Ethereum running a bit. We just haven't gotten that major altcoin run yet, you know. But as history goes, like we're still in this chop phase, you know, after the halving, which typically runs till the end of the year, you know. So like in the grand scheme of things, we're not in a terrible spot. You know, we just got to make these next few months count. So, you know, in the meantime, all we can do is try to stay positive and help support each other, you know, through the tough times. And then we'll have fun celebrating, you know, when times are good again.
All right, amigo. That's what we're going to do. So let's get down to the information. Again, these are compressed versions of the wrap up. What started as a show that used to go through a lot of tweets and cover a lot of different information. Now we're going to try to condense it into a very, let's call it a power pellet that you can consume on YouTube or on Twitter through the live stream, and then carries into a community discussion on Twitter Spaces at the end. That'll start around 12:40. But looking at our information streams that exist out there, information has been rolling. So I think that there's more to be excited about now than ever. The ERC725 account dropped the roadmap this week. Says it's time for a roadmap. We created this little Notion board to give more transparency on larger projects and features we're working on. Keep in mind, we are here to build the roads so that we and others can build the houses. I like it. If you've never been on Notion, check it out. It makes for a powerful format to share information. They've got 8 different streams of information there, including a global features roadmap, which is really exciting to look at. We actually toyed with the idea of showing screenshots relative to the roadmap, but we chose not to. Reason is This is the place to visit and revisit often in order to stay up to date with the progress that's being made towards a fully realized vision for the technological implementation of universal profiles as the foundational layer for the new creative economy here on LUKSO. This tweet can be found again on the information stream that comes from the ERC725 account. That is the account that you want to follow if you want to know what's going on from a technology perspective here on LUKSO.
I read that as ROADs, actually.
That's a callback to Black Sheep with Chris Farley and David Spade.
Yeah, it's a great one. But no, yeah, exciting stuff. Like the development, like that they're laying out for this infrastructure. Like it's just going to open up this whole new level of blockchain, and to know that that's an active, fluid, vibrant roadmap that's evolving in real time. Yeah, make sure you stay up to date on that, fam. Good stuff coming. Some really exciting stuff. A couple of things of note. I'll just let you go through. There's a few really bullish things that we've been harping for quite a while. So it's exciting stuff. And yeah, the dev side, the tech side of things are starting to heat up.
Yeah, when people say when mobile, well, check the Notion board. It's going to tell you exactly what they're working on right now, including features that they're looking to implement in the next round of work, right? Because uh,
Yep.
development happens in sprints. Get something done, ship it, move on to the next thing. If you're interested in where they're moving and how it's progressing, check out the Notion board.
When Oracle, when Bridge, check it out. Take a look.
For sure. Reference that tweet. It'll be, I'm assuming that we'll do the same thing we did last week underneath the spaces, the Twitter spaces, Rob, or underneath the live stream. I'm sorry. All the individual tweets will be referenced. And again, you can always follow the ERC725 account. That is the place to go. You can get more information on ERC725 account, like they're merging wallet.universalprofile.cloud into just universalprofile.cloud, right? We've got two Naruto clones that are actually coming together, right? They look so similar, but they could be the same. They're just one Naruto. It's going to be universalprofile.cloud with that Rasengan. This is an example of great communication around simple but impactful change. It's one I love using a piece of popular culture to express the idea. And, second here, like it drives at the core element of innovation that the team's trying to communicate. Your profile should become the base layer of your interaction on the network. Yeah, we're going to be able to add more layers on top of it through interesting DApps and integrations moving forward. But when we reference our accounts, there should be a simple and foundational manner in which to do that so that it emphasizes the idea of profiles over wallets. And I love, you know, leaning on this pop culture reference here of Naruto. Big fan. Oh, seems like Alt has once again beamed up to the mothership. So what Alt is going to say is he loves to see the RC725 account getting into the meme game, and he sees that as overall bullish. All right, progressing down because we talk about information streams. The ERC725 account also dropped a new standards post. Now, you know that we love new standards here at KEEZ. It's the name of our new podcast. And I'd like to do a new standard segment for each live stream where we can highlight a tweet like this and make a quick discussion of what's happening. And in it, we can kind of distill the absolute core elements while kind of avoiding the buzzwordy stuff. Just give you the meat, right? So, Universal Profiles account says, how does your Universal Profile register new tokens and NFTs you receive? When you receive a new token or NFT, you can see it immediately in universalprofile.cloud, unlike MetaMask, where you have to import every token manually. And they gave us a thread to explain how this works. Moving on to the next tweet in the thread. When Alice sends you an LSP7 token or an LSP8 NFT, she uses her universal profile to interact with the token contract, calling the transfer function with the amount or a specific NFT ID. Then, perfect. What happens in the token contract is that the balances are updated when the balances are updated, it does the internal accounting in the contract. After that, the token contract calls both the sender with, hey, you just sent this amount of tokens, and the person who's going to receive the tokens on the other side gets a message that says, hey, you just received this amount of tokens. That's kind of cool. That is much different than you would have on in a MetaMask transaction right now. Moving on. gets interesting when each of the ups gets notified on their LSP1 universal receiver function, as both can delegate this call to an external contract that can handle the notification. The current default contract is a singleton, meaning everyone uses the same one, but they don't have to. Okay, finally, this contract, called the Universal Receiver Delegate, will call back the recipients and add the token address to its data store. Now, any DApp can simply call the Get Data LSP5 data keys and get all the tokens that this up has received. What you just saw here was a workflow. In that fourth tweet, you said every single universal profile calls in that singleton function right now. The default contract is a singleton. Sorry. It means everyone uses the same one. But you can have things like the Grave step in to solve those issues like spam, right? Like, I send Alt a token that sucks. He doesn't want it. If he has his Grave configured, his universal receiver will see that it is coming. It will say, hey, I don't want that there. I really don't appreciate having your trash in my inbox or my profile. So please go to the Grave. In the future, you could have all kinds of different interactions happen at that receiver, at that let's call universal receiver level. And there might be an entire store, an ecosystem of implementations of this LSP1 that you could sift through that would do very custom things based upon interactions with your profile. I think from a new standards perspective, if you look at the Grave, it's a great example of an early example of something that is taking advantage of this new standard. But in the future, it can get far more complex and things could get really wild in this ecosystem. If any of this technical talk went over your head, even though I'm not being very technical, I'm just reading what's on the screen, then that's okay. Go to docs.luxo.tech. You can read more, or just know that over time, through osmosis, some of this information will land and get through your cranium, as happens to me every single day when I continue to study in Developer Bootcamp myself. It's amazing. I go to bed, I wake up, and somehow more information has penetrated my thick skull. But that is our new standards talk for the day. Moving on in information streams, we get to our general ecosystem news. There was a notification that came out from the LUKSO.io account that said, hey, reminder for validators, if you're running Geth, please upgrade to version 1.14.0 as soon as possible. The Go Ethereum team found a high-risk vulnerability in Geth nodes prior to version 1.13.15. Your node may be vulnerable to malicious peer-to-peer messages, causing your node to run out of memory. Read the article below for more details and subscribe to the LUKSO Validator Substack for further updates. You want to pay attention to these types of situations, right? Also, if you need more insight into what I'm talking about here, sorry, let me recalibrate here because I'm flying solo. So this update here, basically, attention solo stakers, a required Geth update. Obviously, we just went through, but you want to pay attention to the base fee settings that come with that Geth update. If you need more insight into what I'm talking about, see the mega thread from Troy Harris, where he goes into details about the situation that unfolded the last time there was a significant upgrade of the Geth clients on chain. We're a Geth dominated network, and because of that, any problem with Geth can and will propagate, and a serious instability of the network could result. And again, see Troy's recommendations around setting that base fee. Should be in line with the LUKSO team, so you're going to want to pay attention to the Substack as well. That's where the official news is coming out from. But if you're looking for second and third order resources that can pay attention here, and again, double check that primary source content, you can go to the Staking Versus Telegram, where again, you have a lot of people chatting about these validator updates. You can go to the Discord validator channel in the LUKSO Discord, and you can also check Troy Harris's Twitter account, where he is always paying attention to the base fee, right? So although the base fee might not be the only consideration here, it's certainly something we should be watching out for given what happened recently. On the staking front, the Staking Verse just released a few updates on the Staking Verse front end. You can now track your rewards in our reward section. Here, you can also find general network stats of the LUKSO IO mainnet. The graph displaying historical data of the APY and the TVL will soon be available in the staking verse. It's a nice update from the team over at the staking verse. And like we mentioned before, the staking verse does a nice job cultivating a community of home stakers with information being shared on how to maintain your node. And I think I saw Alts just coming back in. Alts, you here?
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet got liquidated there for a second. So
Happens,
I'm
homie.
back. Yeah, unfortunately it does. Thanks for carrying the ship while I was gone. Appreciate it.
Happens. All right. On more general ecosystem news, we have Generation Infinity, the Generation Infinity partnership to bring LUKSO in front of more people is actually been very beneficial early on.
Yeah.
Fabian's been involved in a couple spaces, Alts, and this was a really nice article that they posted as well that was actually underneath the original post, one of the tweets that we're going to reference here. The LUKSO network and Lux ecosystem are really redefining global creative economies. This is from Generation Infinity. Pioneered by Fabian Vogelsteller, inventor of smart contracts, the ERC20, LUKSO aims to revolutionize digital lifestyle ecosystems. And yesterday, when they referenced today, it was actually yesterday, they deep dive into what truly makes the LUKSO ecosystem unique, explaining key features and the overall vision. And Fabian joined that space. It came right after Tim Draper. Alts, did you listen to that space yesterday?
I did. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, this collaboration with Generation Infinity is off to a wonderful start. The great informative posts, and of course the spaces, and this blockchain leaders one was great. Yeah, I mean, Tim Draper's a legend, so he getting him starting it off was really great, and I love to see him already talking about some of the things that we find important with identity and UX and things like that. So yeah, and of course, always down and to hear Fabian go into great detail about these things. And yeah, man, I never get enough of that. And if you did miss it, it was recorded, so you can go back and listen to it. Thankfully they recorded it, so it is still there. And give it a listen, fam. It's great stuff.
Yeah, what was unfortunate is Tim Draper actually had to leave the space just prior to Fabian being able to talk to him. Would have been nice to hear a little bit of interaction
Yeah.
between Fabian and Tim. But I am willing to bet that someone relayed the information that came just after his closing or him leaving the space. So people like Tim probably have eyes out there everywhere.
Oh yeah, I think they're everywhere.
Yeah. All right. On the information streams front, again, from the LUKSO.io account, we had a retweet of this community event in Turkey. I want to say SEM, but let's say Tricer. That's easier to say. The account Tricer says, we started the first LUKSO IO event in Izmir, Turkey. We're excited. We're excited to event. I love that. Many thanks to Ali Mert-Mimis, aka LUKSO Maxi XD. And this was awesome to see. Louis spoke about this in the grant space. He said this type of activity is grantable. And he talked about increasing the top of the funnel for new developers and project participants who are interested in entering the ecosystem. Louis also said, in the context of the grant program, that LUKSO is fully aware and excited to maybe grant this type of activity in your locale, wherever you are. So if you're in a place where there's a hotbed for people who want to discuss blockchain and you think LUKSO is something valuable and you want to bring to them, that might be something you want to explore in this grant program. So good job, guys.
That's great. Yeah, I love to see that. That's like the organic wing, right? Just really continuing to grow. So shout out Turkey fam. The vibes there when we were there are next level on the dev side, especially. So yeah, it's great to see, and I hope to see more, LUKSO fam communities sprouting up around the globe.
You know what I'm realizing? I wrote more notes today than I normally write. Normally I read and then just like shoot it off the hip, which is wild, right? Like it's more when I shoot from the hip, it's actually a little bit more fluid. Now I catch myself like reading the tweet and then looking at my notes and trying to synthesize them. And I'm not doing a good job. I'm like stumbling a little bit.
Yeah, you're doing just fine, fam.
Yeah, but on the information streams front, TechCrunch actually talked about the Net Gala, which was like really cool. Again, we've got these multiple information streams on LUKSO, like we discussed last week. We know what's coming out of the ERC725 account, but we don't always know what's going to come out of the LUKSO.io account or _IO. It's more of a, I should say, like we should think of it more of as a holistic view of the ecosystem, where this TechCrunch article might not have showed up on the LUKSO, the ERC725 account. It did show up on the LUKSO_IO account. And the reason why is because their collaboration with Boys Club for the Net Gala actually landed a LUKSO reference in this TechCrunch article. That's super cool. TechCrunch obviously has a very, very wide readership.
Yeah.
What I will mention though, Alt, is the first time that they used the word LUKSO, they didn't spell it right, and they actually had to correct it. Although they did, thank God. And they only mentioned it once, which is really unfortunate because given that the collaboration with Kid Super happened at this event, you would think that LUKSO might get a little bit more. Uh, what am I trying to
Love.
say?
A little more love.
Love. Yeah. Okay. We'll say love.
Some
Right.
flowers. Throw some flowers, some pink flowers our way would have been nice. Yeah. I mean, definitely always great. I mean, that's a good feature. TechCrunch yeah, has a huge reader base, right? So that is a good feature. But of course, yeah, we'd love to see more of that.
Okay, so this kind of gets us into like on-chain metrics. We think on-chain metrics are really important. Statistics, I mean, everyone can have opinions and we love it. We'll stink up the room with opinions anytime we like.
But the
But
stats
it's
don't
always more
lie.
fun when you have metrics that you can actually measure your opinions against to know if your opinions truly are very smelly or or if they're worth sharing out there or people are getting something from them. So one question I really had was like, how many unique holders came from this Kid Super Mint? Because people were saying, there's only 300 mints that happened to, or it's more than 300, but I'll actually round up. It's like
Sure.
350 mints across the three options for the Kid Super project there. We actually scraped on chain and there's 153 unique holders. At first I was like, oh man, 153 unique holders. I minted all three. I wish more people had gotten involved with this. And my first instinct was to take it to a negative place, but I don't think it's negative at all because Troy Harris actually uncovered more data on chain that's in support of the fact that this is actually good. And it did give us a bump here. This event, whether or not we like the fact that the blockchain is growing like bamboo right now, where it's spreading underground and we don't see much growth on top. It absolutely is catching underground. And soon we should see that explosive growth up alts. So are you ready to see some on-chain metrics?
Yes, let's see the
Okay.
goodies.
First chart we have. This shows almost 1 year of data. Again, this is from the Troy Harris. You can see his Twitter handle up underneath the daily transactions. This is showing the entire history of the network, right? Daily transactions across the entire history of the network from the launch of mainnet almost 1 year ago today to today. And you can see for the first extended period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months of the network, there weren't many transactions. Why? The team was testing the stability of the network. We're deploying the basic and fundamental contracts needed to make this thing functional. And from a user perspective, there are very few users that were out there because there was one very important thing missing, right? And those were universal profiles, right? The way for a
Right.
normie to interact with the chain alts. But you can see on January 8th, there was a project that launched a marketplace and then an NFT project that launched the same day, which caused a ton of transactions. Do you see those two project salts in blue and white there?
Yeah, I could see Universal Page and Chill Wells right there at the gate.
Yeah. So we had an explosion in daily transactions, obviously on January 8th. And then over time, obviously that tapered off a little bit. But we're holding pretty steady right now. And that's with very, very little to do on chain. And that's a good thing. And you can see Troy has actually labeled some important application drops. You can see when burnt picks came, universal pay, universal swaps, universal grave, the Platies drops, the orbs drop, and then as well Kid Super there over the last couple months. Now, if you look at the next chart, we have a cumulative view of the universal profiles created over the last 6-month period, really from November 5th to May 5th. That's about a 6-month period. And you can see it started slowly, right? And steadily. People were making profiles. And then the day Universal Page launched, we went parabolic with burn picks coming shortly thereafter. You can see that line going straight up. Then we
Yeah.
almost have like a root function where it falls off over time afterwards. It's looking
Yeah, but
beautiful.
still steady stream up there, right? Like if you extrapolate out, the direction is still up and to the right, right? Like we wish the chart was. But yeah, the growth is still continuous. I think each one of these drops and projects, moves the needle collectively, which is just great.
Yeah. So this is going to give you the cumulative view of universal profiles created. You can see we're closing in on 18,000. If you're wondering what this looks like on the daily, and this is what connects to the TechCrunch article, when you go down this next chart, you see we had an explosion of universal profiles created on day one. We then had another massive spike around the creation of Universal Page and the drop of chill whales, another massive spike around the drop of burnt picks. And then on the daily, it began to fall off. But the one thing I wanted to make mention of, you can see all the way to the right that KEEZ super line. Now, many people are saying, including myself, I don't really know if this was effective. Well, right there in the hard data, you can see that in the 1 day leading up to KEEZ super, when it was announced pretty much, through the KEEZ super drop, we had a spike in universal profiles created. Is it as big as we wanted it to be? The answer, probably not. But did it make a difference on chain? Answer, yes. Now, if you want to see the cumulative universal profiles created versus universal profiles daily, so you know how to better interpret that cumulative graph, because we'll show it more than once and we'll show it repeatedly, probably over time, how this cumulative shape works. You can see that parabolic growth that happened at the launch of Universal Page. See at the bottom when it shoots up, and you can see obviously on the daily on the top chart the spike of all those profiles created. And then over time, you can see where we've kind of trended flat or a little bit down on the daily creation of universal profiles, that almost root function shape taking hold there over time. So um, that's it just helps you get a sense for what that cumulative shape looks like on the daily creation. And hopefully, you can, if this doesn't make a ton of sense to you from a data interpretation standpoint right now, you can revisit this live stream and kind of check those two graphs out. And Troy will also be dropping a thread, I am fairly certain. So it'll give you more opportunity to pay attention to these metrics and think about them.
Yeah, shout out Troy for putting these together. Super helpful to kind of get a real sense of, the activity that's happening and how it's evolving, over time. And I mean, I'm sure as more of these things on the roadmap, get initiated, we're going to see more spikes, in that growth. I mean, imagine once we get a mobile app and how easy it's going to be to create a universal profile, right? We'll probably see another huge spike there. And as more and more, as we open the ecosystem, and bring in more liquidity and more use cases and more reasons for new users to come in, ultimately that's what we want. And that's what we like to see with like KEEZ Super, is a group of new users that probably didn't even know about LUKSO before. That's ultimately what we want to identify and target, and just grow the greater family, right?
Yeah, we're throwing a lot of charts at you, and some people really don't like data, but we have one more chart to throw at you here. We've got the universal profiles interactions as a percentage of the total number of interactions that happen on like transactions that happen on the network daily. So the black space doesn't imply empty blocks. Instead, the black space are the number of transactions that are being initiated by EOAs and not by universal profiles. There is a very specific reason why many of the transactions that happened after the drop of burnt picks are not happening on universal profiles. And that's because refiners like myself can automate them and run them through Rabby, which seems to be uh, uh, a wallet that is kind to refiners. So you can see if we don't have a reason to really interact daily with our universal profiles, many of the transactions on the network are going to move out to these EOAs that are refining burnt picks. What I will say is if there is a reason to use the universal profiles in a social way at all, to collect platties, to claim our orbs or stake our chill, to buy the KEEZ super drop, right?
Yeah.
To interact with anything that drops, the universal profile usage as a percentage of daily transactions spikes. What I'm really excited to see the drop of Artisan Alley soon, which should create more clicking on this network, as well as a few other things that are in the pipeline. So again, the more of these applications that drop, the more that we're going to see universal profiles, that pink line trend up. And that'll be a good thing because the pink lines offer a lot more value to the social graph, the social connectivity of the users on the network than do the black lines, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think as the social side of things evolves and grows out and the utility that you're going to need to be able to earn that reputation and build that identity, you're going to need to do it through a universal profile, right? So as those things shape up, as it were, I think we're going to see more and more reasons, like you said, to use those universal profiles. Speaking of, it takes us kind of into our next segment here. Speaking of the social side of things, we had a wonderful thread here from Friends with Benefits. They say in order to, for blockchain to reach its full potential, it must be understandable and aesthetic as it is innovative. A better internet requires the transformation of users into participants, which we always like to say that, and redistributing power from the platforms to the people. Some identity. This is the tokenizing culture. Some see it as scene coins. Others embrace it by building solutions for human readable design, a product designed ethos, proliferated with the LUKSO universal profile. So I won't read the whole thing. It's a quite extensive thread, but definitely go check that out if you haven't seen it. As far as if you're not sure what Friends with Benefits is, it's a kind of a new kind of social network. It's home to many subcultures. It kind of exists in this ecosystem of symbiotic relationships, a decentralized creative studio, and a never-ending group chat, basically, right? So it's an evolving experience. With at the core of it is a social DAO with over 4,000 members. They have a token, and I would say Friends with Benefits represents kind of this departure from traditional social networks by embracing decentralization at the core level, right? So this shift kind of empowers users to shape their own digital experiences, kind of ushering genuine connections and cultural change. Now, with LUKSO, we always talk about this UX that's going to be for mass adoption, right? Blockchain interaction, making it accessible and intuitive for users is kind of exactly what they would be. It would allow them to power up what their vision is, right? Kind of prioritizing that user experience. LUKSO fosters this inclusivity and empowers participants to navigate the Web3 landscape with kind of like a new level of confidence that didn't really have before. So, but basically, both entities are all about the ethos of Web3, which is, lean into the decentralized side of things. So yeah, what's your main takeaways from that thread, Eth?
Um, so if we reference that last chart and it was pink with these big gaping sections of black, it seems to me that an organization like Friends with Benefits could really flourish on LUKSO using this social blockchain as its infrastructure
Yeah,
and even the Friends with Benefit token as its cultural currency on this network. And what we could do is organizations like this, or even new organizations that form that have similar vision and ideal to this, could begin to pinkify that chart, right? Because
I like that.
as they embrace the universal profile, we're going to get larger and larger sections of pink as a percentage of daily transactions on the network, more people using their universal profile to interact with one another, to follow one another with future following systems, maybe in universal everything, to talk to one another, to exchange ideas, to exchange value, whether it be monetary value or cultural or social value. That was my first impact, my first instinct. Now, Friends with Benefits, when I saw this drop, I was like, oh man, this is kind of neat. And I read through it and they talk about empathy. Um, you really need to read it to get a sense for everything that they are trying to say, because they're making a pretty expansive case for using technology that is sensitive to the for embracing technology that's sensitive to the user's desire. What I want to do is I want to pull out and just read a snippet from LUKSO, because they use LUKSO as a case study, and they call it Leaving the Labyrinth, the LUKSO case study. And they say a labyrinth, this is a direct quote. I will not ad lib. I'm going to read this right through. It says a labyrinth. That's the current state of most Web3 product experiences. Web3 interfaces are nearly as complex and challenging as the underlying technology, which is not so surprising considering the scale and pace of blockchain innovation. As consumer applications journey towards product market fit, nailing the retail interface is the current race to the top. In adopting a human readable design for their universal profiles protocol, LUKSO has successfully transformed the esoteric into the legible. What once was a computer centric design language has now transformed into a customizable and highly personal experience. As users navigate their digital identities, they encounter interfaces, worlds free of the cryptic signaling and heavy technical language commonplace for most Web3 experiences. This brings true humanness to the blockchain experience. Human readable design continually considers the end user's path out of the dark forest, allowing their digital interactions to guide where and how we illuminate the roadmap. This is empathetic tech. A better internet requires the transformation of users into participants and redistributing power from the platforms to the people. By creating an abundance of access to these new tools and dynamic standards, LUKSO becomes an ecosystem facilitator that not only brings blockchain to its next frontier, but enables the once clunky and complex technology to become beautifully invisible, yet social and cultural at the same time. Creatives, brands, designers, even friends can now tap into the full potential of true ownership, interoperable identities, and unleash their creative force without intermediaries of the past or technical complexities. Since its inception, LUKSO has built out its digital base layer with context. Previously siloed industries can now converge in an open, interoperable ecosystem with creativity, social interactions, and culture at the core. I pulled that out. They called it Leaving the Labyrinth, the LUKSO case study. This was an excellent article from Friends with Benefits. Actually drew me into Friends with Benefits. It was something I was only fringely aware of. Um, it's not just the LUKSO piece that then interested me. If this is the type of collective vision that Friends of Benefits is moving with, then I say with open arms, our community should embrace this type of community and try to foster its growth in our ecosystem. And maybe it will spring up like seeds from a mighty tree, other saplings in our ecosystem that have similar ideals that we're willing to grow in a kind of accordance with it's, I don't know, it's parent, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
No, I love that.
powerful.
Yeah, I mean, for a user to be able to kind of see their desires reflected in the technology, that's like, yeah, that's like Web3 empathy right there, right? That is just beautiful. Well said, friends with benefits.
And on the empathy front, we should have empathy for one another in our individual plights right now. It's across the entire ecosystem. It just feels weird. Some of us are multi-cyclers, and I've listened to a number of podcasts where people are talking about just how it feels a little empty right now. It's distilling a point that I heard in one of the Bankless podcasts. It was just like a lot of us, a lot of the fun in crypto is like getting wealthy with your friends, right? And across the entire ecosystem, we've trended towards this, to use the words of the podcast, this nihilistic viewpoint where it's like it's we've stripped this empathetic, heartfelt reason for being here and reduced it to its absolute base level of I want the money. If you have it, I'll take it from you. And by any means necessary, that's what's appropriate. Right. Like I launch a shit coin, you buy it, I rug you, I made more money. Look at me. And that's not, I don't think that's good for anyone. So if you're looking to build with heart in an ecosystem that has heart, in an ecosystem that has empathy, with participants that have empathy, I think this is the spot that you want to be. And I think regardless of price action, if we have empathy for one another, this ecosystem rings true. There's a soul here. And I think I want to carry that discussion over to our Twitter spaces. So
Yeah,
alt,
I like that a lot. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that's one of the main issues that we've seen with just Web3 culture and crypto culture is there's no social aspects, right? So there's really no reason for them to be good actors, up to this point. So I think, yeah, I can't wait to see that new wave of empathy. I like uh, one thing I just kind of realized yesterday was that like perspective is more important than perception. You know, perception is something that we all have our own. Like you say, there are opinions like assholes, right? We all have our own, but really, truly, you can't really share that with anybody else. And everyone else has their own independent perception of the world. But perspective is to put yourself in someone else's shoes, or even to, to a greater point, look outside yourself, step outside of yourself and see things in a greater picture, in a greater light. And that's kind of empathy. And I think that's like, one thing about this ecosystem is we are ahead of the curve on that front. And I truly appreciate the fam for that.
All right. So if you've enjoyed this hybrid live stream as we continue to ideate and work our way through it, one lesson I learned today: make less notes, be completely authentic. I think I'm better. I think it resonates more. The more notes I make, the more I want to read them. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications if you're on YouTube, and or follow and potentially turn on notifications on Twitter to hear more from the KEEZ account. Thank you for your support. I'm going to turn on the Twitter space right now, and after we finish closing this down, I will come over there and we'll get that lit up. But I'm going to turn that on now, Alts. So give us some closing words.
Cool. Yeah. As always, fam, thank you for joining us on your Friday. Hopefully you see you in the spaces. I want to hear some thoughts. Don't be afraid to just raise your hand and come up on stage and let us know what you're thinking. I actually did get a couple of DMs saying, "Hey, what happened to the joke last week?" I was, trying to be quick on the show, on the closing that last time. So, but I did have one today. So I don't know if you're there, Eth, still.
Yeah,
Are you
I'm
there?
here. Hit me with
Okay.
it.
Well, let me ask you a quick question before we head out then.
Yeah.
Why didn't Han Solo enjoy his steak dinner?
I have no idea, man. I literally have no idea. Why?
It was chewy.
Man, that is sick. That's some sick shit.
That's a meta. That one's like multi-level, right? But yeah, fam, we appreciate you taking the time to, those of us who watched us live, we appreciate you. And if you're watching on your own time, we appreciate you as well. Hope everyone's Friday is going great. Hope you have an amazing end to your week, and do what you do best, fam. Stay pink.